You hear claims every single day. Maybe it's on the news, maybe a friend swears brand A is way better than brand B, or maybe you read that Group X does a certain activity way more than Group Y. But how do you actually prove it using hard data? Well, today we are mastering statistical hypothesis testing for two means and proportions. We're going to learn exactly how to test these everyday assumptions scientifically.
For instance, let's look at a real-life question straight from our lab materials. Do women own more shoes than men? Now, if we include sneakers, sandals, boots, it's really easy to just make an assumption, but statistics demands actual evidence. To answer this mathematically, we can't just ask one guy and one girl. We need a sample, and more importantly, we need a structured way to systematically prove that sample against our basic assumption. This is exactly why statistics matters in the real world.
So, here is my promise to you. By the end of this lecture, you will understand the exact conceptual framework needed to set up and solve hypothesis tests comparing two different groups. You're going to learn the core concepts, the steps, and how to apply them so you can confidently declare what the data is actually telling us instead of just relying on guesswork.
Okay, well, let's break this down. Our source material gives us a detailed 8-step lab procedure, but we can group that into 5 easy, manageable macro steps. 1. Define your hypotheses. 2. Choose the correct distribution. 3. Calculate your statistics using your sample. 4. Graph the data and find your p-value. And 5. Make your final conclusion. This 5-step process is literally a roadmap for the rest of this explainer.
Step 1 is defining the battlefield. In any statistical test, we are always comparing two things: the null hypothesis, which we call H0 or H0, against the alternative hypothesis, which we call HA. Now, the null hypothesis assumes the status quo. It's basically saying, hey, there's no difference here. The two groups are exactly the same. The alternative hypothesis, on the other hand, represents the new, exciting claim we are actually trying to test, like the claim that women own strictly more shoes than men.
And there's a perfect real-life analogy for this. Think of the null hypothesis as a defendant sitting in a courtroom, innocent until proven guilty. As statisticians, we absolutely always assume the null hypothesis is true to begin with. We assume no difference exists between the two groups until the data provides overwhelming, irrefutable evidence to prove otherwise. If your data isn't strong enough, the null hypothesis walks free.
Now, you might be wondering, okay, shoes are great, but how does this apply to something a bit more high stakes, like the stock market? Let's put our framework into action with our first real-life example from the text: testing proportions. Specifically, we want to test if the proportion of New York Stock Exchange stocks that went up in value is mathematically greater than the proportion of NASDAQ stocks that went up.
So, the crucial point is how we gather our evidence. Following the lab, we randomly select 40 NYSE stocks and 32 NASDAQ stocks from yesterday's business section. These are our sample sizes. We are testing to see if the proportion of the 40 NYSE winners is strictly greater than the proportion of the 32 NASDAQ winners. And notice, we are comparing proportions here, not means, because a stock either went up or it didn't, right? It's categorical.
But wait, before we can crunch any numbers, we hit step 2. We must clearly define our random variable in words and choose the appropriate mathematical distribution. A random variable is simply a variable defined in words whose values are the numerical outcomes of our test. So in our stock market example, a random variable would be the difference in the estimated proportions of increasing stocks between those two different exchanges. Let's shift gears and see how this works with our second example, looking at means instead of proportions. Here's a really fun one from the Candy Survey Lab. Do M&Ms and Reese's Pieces have the exact same number of candies per package? Assuming the packages have the same net weight, of course. Our null hypothesis here would naturally be that the mean number of candies is exactly equal for both brands, status quo.
Now, to test this, we literally go out and buy 3 small packages of M&Ms and 5 small packages of Reese's Pieces. We count them up, calculate the mean for each brand, and plot them. It's great to visually represent the means from our 3 M&M packages against our 5 Reese's packages to get a sense of the data. But remember, a visual guess is not statistical proof. Are they truly equal, or is the difference actually statistically significant? And that brings us to step 3, calculating the test statistic. This calculation is the engine of our hypothesis test. It's a standardized mathematical value calculated directly from your sample data. Think of it like a universal translator. Whether you're counting colorful candies or tracking billion-dollar stocks, the test statistic converts your specific data into a standard statistical language, telling us exactly how far our sample deviates from our null hypothesis.
Now wait, pay close attention to this next part because it is absolutely critical. Let's define the p-value. Graphing it and shading the actual level of significance is our core fourth step. The p-value is the probability of obtaining test results at least as extreme as the results you actually observed, assuming the null hypothesis is perfectly correct. In plain English, it's the probability that the differences in your data happen by pure random luck.
Which leads us perfectly into step 5, the conclusion. You just compare your p-value to your chosen significance level, which is basically your cutoff line. If your p-value is tiny, meaning it's less than your significance level, your data is not just luck. You reject the null hypothesis. You have proof. But if the p-value is greater than or equal to the significance level, you do not reject the null hypothesis. You just don't have enough evidence. And you always wrap this up by translating the math back into a clear, real-world sentence.
Now let me clear up a super common point of student confusion. What if we pick 8 specific stocks and track those exact same stocks over 2 consecutive days to see if they went down on average? Because we are tracking the same entities twice, this is matched or paired data. It's not 2 independent groups. But guess what? Our 5-step framework still entirely applies to this decreasing stock survey. We still set up H0 and HA, define the variables, calculate differences, graph the p-value, and conclude.
Before we wrap up, let's lock in what we've learned. Hypothesis testing gives us a bulletproof framework to find the truth in the noise. Whether you're counting the shoes in your closet, measuring candies in a bag, or tracking stock market trends, this structured step-by-step process leads to reliable conclusions. Define your hypotheses, choose the distribution, calculate the stats, graph that p-value, and confidently state your conclusion based on real evidence.
So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Think about your daily life right now. What assumption are you currently accepting as a null hypothesis without any actual statistical proof? Are you just assuming your usual route to work is faster? That one brand of coffee gives you more energy than another? Start looking at the world like a statistician. Gather the data and test those assumptions. Thanks for joining me for this lecture, and I'll